So I woke up in the rising hours, and the first thing that I did was look at my computer to go on my school website to like look at my refund stuff and stuff like that, because I had to check where the hell my money is. And when I looked at it, I saw that they took the money out for the payment for all my stuff, but I didn't know where the rest of my money from my grant went. Okay, I was having a little moment. So I go to my mom, stressed and upset, girl. Mom, where is the rest of my money? Blah blah blah. And she just started. She's like, what if they blah blah blah? What if they blah blah blah? She's asking me what if statements. I don't know. So I get irritated. I go in my room and I finished doing my whole rising hour routine, which that time was January 27th, 2023, was meditating every morning, saying my affirmations. I was meditating, saying my affirmations every single day since the beginning of the new year, 2023. And I go back, I meditate, I say my affirmations in the mirror while I'm getting ready for work. End up calling my best friend, and I'm like, because my best friend goes to the same school as me, and I'm like, explain the situation, and they're like, well, if anything, you'll see it by this day. And I'm like, okay, yeah. And then I go to my mom and tell my mom this. My mom was irritated. She was like, girl, I don't give a damn no more. She was basically like, girl, I don't care. And I'm like, okay, cool. I go outside the house to wait for a lift to go to work. And then while I'm waiting for the lift, my mom decides to come outside and continue the situation from inside. And then the Lyft driver pulls up and he's like, is your name Maya? And I'm like, yeah, that's me. And when I get in there, he was like, you smell so nice. And I'm like, thank you. And I start playing my Uno, because I be playing Uno on my phone. And he's like, usually people don't talk in lifts. He doesn't really talk to people because they be on their phone or whatever. But if I have time, he whips down his dashboard, and on his dashboard he got 2 affirmations taped up, and one has to do with being in alignment, and then 2 has to do with like basically also doing with being in alignment, but it was something else. And I said, give me a minute, because I always tell people nothing is a coincidence. So give me a minute, because we really about to chit chat it up. I started talking about books. We started talking about books because I read a lot, girl. I love to read. I try my best to read. To the end of our ride, after we're just chit chatting it up about books and life and being in alignment, he's like, oh, I really recommend you read the Gospels of the Bible. And I'm like, I will go home and research about that, because I don't know a lot about that. And in return for that, I want you to read, how could I forget the name of my favorite book? I was like, in turn, I want you to read, we're gonna get it together. Give me a second. In turn, I want you to read, it's a green book. It has like 4 herbs on the front. It's called Agreements, but I'm not sure if it's 4 or 7. Hold on, give me a second. The book is called The 4 Agreements. Okay, so I was like, in trade off of that, I want you to read The 4 Agreements. And what The 4 Agreements does is it takes you out of all social constructs. Well, that's what I feel like it does. Social constructs are things, I just like to say it's things you come to know, but I know that's too freaking vague. Let me see if there's another. Let me get the Google definition. A social construct is any category or thing that is made real by conviction or collective agreement. That's what a social construct is, okay? I like to give an example as, let's say you're a child and you're born into a world where all men are wearing skirts, and a man decides to not wear a skirt but to wear pants. That's a form of social construct that warps you into that being a normal, because you are told and assimilate yourself to the information given to you by your environment and sometimes by your society even, that's not normal. Okay, so that is a social construct. Okay, That's why I recommend him that book. Do I recommend most religious people this book? I recommend everybody that book. That's my number one recommended book, because I just feel like it's short, it's simple, it's to the point. It is kind of repetitive, but I feel like sometimes you need to hear shit more than once. You feel me? I'm gonna add more concealer, okay? So I go to work now, and this shift is, oh wait, I forgot to mention, this man literally wanted to continue talking to me. I was like, sir, I have to go to work. You're just my ride. I hate to say that. But I said, I gotta go to work. And so I went to work, and when I went to work, I was not thinking the whole time. I kind of like pre-programmed my body just to like work and not be there spiritually, maybe. I want to say it's mentally, but it's not mentally, because I'm there doing the work. But spiritually, I'm just like letting my body do the work, if that makes sense. I don't know, does that sound crazy? I hope that doesn't sound crazy. Anyways, so I'm just working through this shift, and throughout the shift, I kept seeing a number. I really don't remember the number. I'm sorry. And I'm sorry that I took so long to tell this story, but I was scared about being judged, and I'm never gonna do that again. I'm so sorry. It was a bunch of even numbers, I'll tell you that. It was a bunch of even numbers, and it started with 2. It wasn't in sequence, not necessarily, it wasn't in sequence, but it was a bunch of even numbers. And I kept getting it on cash totals. Like, cash totals will pop up to that. I'm like, okay, whatever, cool. And then when I went to the bathroom before I was going back home, I played a Uno game in the bathroom, and I seen the total at the end of that Uno game was that same number. I said, what the fuck? I'm like a person that if I see a sign, I'm gonna pay attention to it. I search up the number, and the number basically tells me that I'm in autoplane mode. And I was like, how you know that? I literally was just like, when I was working, I was, okay, cool. I go home. The first time I put my head up to look outside, which is unfortunate, but the first time I put my head up to look outside the car, I see 222. I care about numbers, y'all. I do. Okay, I'm a math girly, okay? I saw 222. I knew exactly what that meant to me in my spirit. For me, that meant go look up what that man told you to look up. As soon as I get home, I put my computer on the edge of the bed, open up the computer, type in the Gospels of the Bible, and the first tab that I see, it says the Gospels of the Bible or whatever, but it was like, you know, the Bible itself. I click on it, but it does not bring me to that. So I get this sense, this feeling to continue looking, because I get this feeling in my gut, in my heart. It's 255 right now. But I get this feeling in my gut, in my heart, to keep looking, because it was meant for that man to tell me to go look for it, meant for me not to see what he told me to look for somehow, because the link that I clicked on did not bring me to what it said, but it brought me to this. And it brought me to Ephesians 6, 1 through 24. I'm not 100% sure if it's 1 through 24, but it brought me to that scripture, that Ephesians 6 scripture. And that's the basically that scripture says the obey your parents scripture, how important the father's role is. I was like, yeah, this is true shit. And then as I'm saying, yeah, this is true shit, it starts to say that slaves, obey your masters. And it's saying that, like, it's a whole paragraph related to that. And then after that, it starts to describe the armor of, I want to say it's the armor of God, but I'm not 100% sure. But it's describing an armor, and it's essentially getting into detail of what each piece of the armor is. Now for me, that ate, because there was a little confusion as to why it's positive, slaves obey your masters, positive. I was like, this is like a weird sandwich. But then I was like, when it said the breastplate of righteousness, each piece of this outfit that it's describing, I could really just search it up and say exactly what it says, which I'm probably just gonna time freeze the video and say exactly where it's from. This is my take on it. You wear this armor every single day, because my take on it is we are living in hell. Okay, we're living in hell, but we have the control of controlling whether we're living in hell or heaven. I don't want to get too crazy, because I feel like that statement kind of sounds crazy, but let's stay on track, okay? So for me, you got to put this armor on every day. You got to put on the truth. You got to put on the righteousness. Every day you go out, you got to put this. I'm in agreement. And then I'm like, I felt like I was supposed to read that. And then I'm like, give me a minute. What is the first religion? What is the first religion? I like how I just paused doing my makeup to get into detail. Let me get back on track. And some Huda Beauty. Yeah, because we support Palestine, baby. Yeah. Back to what I'm talking about. So I searched up what is the first religion, and when I searched that up, a weird long name came up. It was like Zoroastrianism, a really long name that I'm probably pronouncing wrong. I look at what the description of the God was. I take a screenshot, and I think about, well, damn, this description 8. I'm like, maybe all of the religions is derived from this one religion, because what this religion is saying for me sounds like God. Background knowledge on me. I was raised Christian, but I was also raised by women who were unbiased. My grandmother from Jamaica is like Christian. She's so awesome. I love her so much. Oh, she's such a warm person. My grandmother, they're both born from Jamaica, but the one that lives in America, she's Christian, but she's actually Catholic, but she goes to church on Sundays. She goes to temple as well because she takes care of Jewish people. She's awesome. And I grew up around that, and I grew up around unjudgmental women who were unjudgmental to whatever religion. They were just unbiased. They don't care if you're gay. They don't care what religion you believe in. They're like that. But I'm saying they're godly women. They believe in what they believe, but they never judge other people for what they believe in. And I had to give that background knowledge. Yeah, when people believe in one thing, they're very judgmental when they hear you talking about other things. And I just want to say, I don't carry that bias with me. Okay, I don't carry that bias with me. And I don't want to carry that bias with me, because if I am really of love, then I'm also of understanding. And I want to understand perception. Like, we were all raised differently, so I want to understand the different personal experiences. You get what I'm saying? I keep saying that so much, and I need to relax, because you get what I'm saying. Let me put some lip liner on and call this look a day. Lip liner. There's something that I forgot to mention. When I was reading the scripture in Ephesians, and I came to the slave, obey your master scripture, I just had emotional connection to Nat Turner. If you know Nat Turner's story. If you don't know Nat Turner's story, I highly recommend you watch the movie, and I think there's a book about him, but I definitely watched the movie, and I definitely did research about Nat Turner. And girl, his story, I feel like, correlated to that, and I feel like when people go search up about Nat Turner, they'll understand. Back on track with the story. So after I searched it up, I saw the description of the God, and I'm like, wait, I've heard this somewhere else. I don't know where I've heard it, but I think I've heard this somewhere else. I went and looked in the Quran, and when I went and looked in the Quran, I'm pretty sure I have a bunch of screenshots and stuff, because I was screenshotted. I was going through this. Well, I hope I do, but I know I saved some photos from when I did. I feel like I've read something from the Quran before, but I've never read it this in depth. So as I was reading it, it was just eating. As I was reading it, it was just eating. Like, I feel like the narrator in this book, compared to when I did read the Bible, the narrator of this book is much more a disciplined father, not in like a in like a I love you discipline. And then as I came to the scripture, it said, I self-reflected on that, and I said that would mean that when I was depressed and looking down, I was not doing everything that I needed to do to be the positive me. And I was like, the positive me, when I'm looking up, I'm doing everything that I need to do to be me. And I was like, well, that would have to mean that I am God. And as soon as I had that self-realization, this energy of complete understanding, this light filled my body completely to the point where my eyes were tearing up, and the first words that came out of my mouth was, I know my purpose. I no longer fear death. And then I said, I need to write this. I need to write. Because around that time, I was also journaling so much. I remembered I would want God to speak through me. And I grabbed my phone and I typed. And the first thing I wrote was, who are we? And the second thing I wrote was, we are one. And I wrote, who are we with a question mark. And then I wrote, we are one. When I typed, we are one, I had a vision. It was in a void, and I was in a woman's body, a Black woman's body. And a Black man was staring me right in my face. And instantly, I kept typing. And instantly, I knew that everything started at a Black man and a Black woman. From what I wrote, everything that I wrote, it basically is just about complete self-reflection. And yeah, I'm gonna just put it in the description. And then as soon as I finished writing everything, my best friend, he calls me and I just start explaining everything that happened. Because I'm just so overflowing with emotion. And I started explaining everything. And it was like, do you know I am means God? Because in what I wrote in my notes that followed after the who are we are one, I said, who am I? And the response was, I am you. And that's why he was like, do you know I am is God? And I was like, what? And I went and Google searched it, and it was like, yes. And I was like, what? I was like, oh my goodness, God was speaking through you. And I was like, yeah. Because I had that experience, I became a seeker. Because through that experience, you can already see I was already a seeker, okay? I'm a seeker of love, okay? Because I love it. I love love. With everything being said, what I want to focus on now, ever since I had that experience, I wanted to prove to everybody, spiritually and scientifically, that we are the beginning of everything, essentially. By we, I mean brown people. I say brown, not Black, because I know that words in itself are spells. I really could go into that so deeply, okay? I like to say brown, and I know that may be confusing to some, but I like to say brown because it means be round, and Black means be lack. That message in itself is essentially important to me as well, that everybody knows that everything starts from a brown woman and a brown man, okay? And I do not mean a beige woman and a beige man. I mean a Black man and a Black woman. You know what the motherfucker. That is so important for us to know, because that is the #1 family that is still being destroyed. And it's being destroyed scientifically and spiritually, okay? It's being destroyed in both ways. They're worried about us becoming too big because they fear us. I don't know. They fear us to some standards for some fucking reason, girl. I don't fucking know. We're amazing fucking people, girl. But that's there. And because of that, they care more about their population being bigger than our population. Now I'm just gonna like start hitting you with a bunch of shit, girl, because I just gotta get the message through. You feel me? There was a census that was released, pretty sure it was right before Roe versus Wade was turned over. That was intentional, okay? Because this democracy we live in is not ran by the people. Let's get over that. Let's get over it. It's ran by the elites. Let's get over it. Let's get over it. Okay. Why is that so important to say? That's important to say because Roe versus Wade hasn't been turned over in a minute, girl, in a fat little minute. But all of a sudden it's turned over, and right before it was turned over, there was a census release saying that the minority was beating the majority, basically saying that anti-racial people were having so much babies that the Caucasians was going down in population. All of a sudden, Roe versus Wade is overturned. Why is that? That is because the most people that have abortions is white women. And it's no shade to the white girlies. I get it. You know, I get it. But I'm saying that's why it was overturned. You know what I'm saying? And how I feel about abortion and stuff. Girl. Well, I personally feel that the soul does not enter the body until the first breath. And if we were to go off of Christianity itself, did Adam have life before his creation or after the breath of life? What's the correct answer? The correct answer is after the breath of life. And me personally, before I even came to that, using that as proof or whatever, in my personal experience, when I had a past life regression, when I entered into the next life, it was through my first breath coming out of the canal, because the canal was a light that I was drawn. Now I'm starting to sound fucking crazy. Now I'm gonna shut the fuck up. They overturned that. Why was it so important for them to do that? It's literally a disease of consumption, if I can explain it. Not Caucasian people inherently. I'm talking about the disease that is of the 1%, the disease that is of the greedy. Another thing that I did want to talk about is just monotheistic religions. My take on monotheistic religions. My take on monotheistic religions is that there's 3 of them, for anybody that doesn't know. Christianity, Judaism, and the Muslim religion. The Muslim religion is my fave. What do you mean? Don't judge it unless you've read each of the religion's texts more than 15%. I'm gonna give you 15%, no, 20%. Read it 20% and let me know, based off the narrator, based off of the message, based off of the intention, okay? Based off the understanding, let me know which one is your favorite. Let me tell you what the Torah is, because some people are gonna be like, girl, you ain't read no damn Torah, girl. Okay, so the Torah is basically the Old Testament. Christianity, I love the New Testament, but because they also believe in the Old Testament, it's contradicting. The first black woman, the first black man is Adam and Eve, okay? The first thing that God does, that the God of this religion does, is the God puts both Adam and Eve under a spell. And this spell is the same spell, this curse is the same, because curse are spells. This spell is the same spell that we can see in our society today. That means that the spell itself is manifesting itself. And a lot of us, most of us, are born into it, so we unknowingly don't even know that we're set underneath these curses that were predated, which is Eve's curse. What the Christian/Judaism God represents is the God who is furthering and allowing the consumption of a bloodline that keeps on taking and enslaving the lives of the minority. That's just my take on it based off of reading Genesis alone, girl. Break it down. Knowledge broken down means know the ledge. You literally can take it apart and it says no ledge. When you know the ledge, you won't walk over the edge. Black people specifically were punished for knowing knowledge, for having knowledge, period. And that goes back to what I was referring to with Nat Turner, because Nat Turner was a well-educated person, and a revolt happened with Nat Turner that ended up making slave masters even more adamant about Black people not getting knowledge. What happens when we get knowledge? When we get knowledge, we remember who we are, right? So God, in the Bible, it says, He has become like one of us, knowing good and evil, acknowledging that Adam and Eve are both gods. But because of this, He has to make sure that they represent sacrifice and not life. So He blocks them from the tree of life.
He puts a scary looking angel, it's called a cherubim or something like cherubim, a scary looking angel with a flame sword. So Adam ain't even worried about life, which, if you know what the Ankh is, it's older than the cross, and the Ankh represents life. It's the key of life, and it represents man, woman, and child, the child being the most important part. Okay, so that's what we believed in before we believed in sacrifice, right? If God does not want them to have life, in my opinion, he does not want them to remember who they are. Because if they remember who they are, they will not be under his control anymore, because they are gods themselves. Okay? Okay. Another thing I want to mention, which I've already seen this on TikTok, somebody has mentioned it, and I'm so happy that other people are realizing it. But God never spoke to Eve. God never spoke to Eve. So I don't really blame her. You know what I'm saying? Because God never had a conversation with her. I've had conversations with like my Christian friends, and they said that's because the man is supposed to be the head of the house. How the man supposed to be the head of the house when Adam was literally sitting right there when the transaction with Eve and the snake was going on? He was sitting right there. Could have stopped it, could have interjected, but he didn't, because he had no knowledge. Okay? He had no knowledge. I know they're not connected, but I do connect Native Americans to Latinos. So I had to say that before I get into how they are restricted now based on the Bible. So Abraham and Sarah, well, this is the first notation of dilution, is Abraham and Sarah. So Abraham and Sarah were going around to kings, and they came to this one king, and you're not supposed to fornicate. You're not supposed to sleep with a married man's wife. The king that they stopped at this time that allowed them to stay in their palace, because Abraham told the king that Sarah was actually his wife. Sarah was actually his sister, not his wife. And God ends up coming into the dude's dream, because you're not supposed to sleep with a married man's wife. He comes into his dream, and when he comes into his dream, God is like threatening him and stuff. The man ends up waking up out of his dream and going to Abraham, and he's like, I let you stay in my house. How you gonna do this to me, man? How you gonna put me in this situation? And Abraham was like, well, when I came in here, I didn't sense the fear of God in here. I didn't sense that. So that was his first excuse. And then his second excuse was, technically, she is my sister because we have the same dad, but we don't have the same mom. Yes, Sarah's a white woman, in my opinion. Yes, Abraham is a mixed man, in my opinion, by the text, in my opinion. Not in my opinion, in my personal belief. So Abraham and Sarah end up having Isaac, which we know Abraham has another baby with the slave, but we're going to get into that into another time. So they have Isaac, and then Isaac gets with Rebecca, and they have Jacob and Esau. I hope I'm pronouncing his name right. But Esau, it says in the Bible that he came out red and hairy. In my personal opinion, as somebody who comes from the Cooley lineage, where my hair typically grows this way, I shaved, okay? My hair grows this way. It represents Native Americans, if not also Hispanics and Latinos, specifically Latinos. This is now their curse. So when Esau and Jacob are born, which they're born with one person holding the other person's leg, but when they're young, Jacob, the Caucasian, decides that Esau has to sell him his birthright, his life, has to sell him his life. And Esau is just like, oh, okay, blah, blah, blah. He just does it willingly, sells his life to him. And then, to make matters even worse, on Isaac's deathbed, which Isaac's favorite was Esau, and I'm sorry if I'm blandering the name, and Rebecca's favorite was Jacob. And so on Isaac's deathbed, Rebecca tells Jacob to pretend to be Esau, and basically gets all of the rights that Esau was deserving of. Basically gets everything that was owed to him, everything that was his already to begin with. And he comes in and takes it all away from him. I just want us to note that there's a specific bloodline in the Old Testament, which there's only one group that we know in this world that studies and represents the Old Testament. Look at the world and what that specific group is doing. I just want to randomly throw in there that I love Jesus, okay? I really mess with the New Testament heavy, but why I say that I cannot be a Christian is because of the Old Testament, okay? It's the Old Testament, because if we read it for what it is, it's a bunch of curses. Jesus was out here helping the hoes and the homeless, girl. I'm down with that. I'm down with that. I'm down with that. And if our government was really as Christian as they say, as religious as they say, then they would be helping the homeless. But they're not helping the homeless. Why? Because they're on the side of the consumptionist disease bloodline. Don't come on this mud effing app telling me that I'm anti-Semitic because I'm speaking my personal beliefs. First of all, I don't believe that all Jewish people are set on this agenda and this indoctrination. If I was to believe that, I really don't hold no faith for love. But for the most part, because outside of religion, outside of anything ego-based or social, or that's a social construct, anything that we come to know or be indoctrinated in because of our social environment when we're a kid, at any moment, anybody can choose to just choose love, to just choose understanding. I can say that because I was raised Christian, but I find understanding in so many different people of different races, of different religions. So I don't want nobody here getting on this app telling me that I'm anti-Semitic for speaking my personal belief to my connections to the world. Because no matter what, I'm going to love everybody. Okay? I just have to share what I see because it connects with everything that's going on. I understand that people are going to feel the way that they feel about the things that I say, and that's okay because everybody is obliged to feel however they want to feel. But I want, before you feel the way you feel, or after you feel the way you feel, to at least self-reflect on what I'm saying, because this is not only attached to the things that I've found, but this is attached to my own personal experience. I also want to say, I do not believe that the people who believe in the Old Testament all have this agenda. I do not believe that. However, I do believe that there is a clear reality of us manifesting spells because of this belief system that is currently affecting us, specifically in Palestine. But Marley said, "How long shall they kill our prophets while we stand aside and look?" We need to understand the signs of which our social climate is going in. There's a lot of Jewish people who are standing up for the rights of Palestinians, and I love that for us. I love that for us as a society. I love that for us as a community. The truth, all of the truth is dispersing and coming out as we speak. There's one more thing that I want to leave you guys with, and then I'm gonna leave y'all alone. I just wanted to read real quick 2 pages from a book called The Fire Next Time by James Baldwin. This book, James Baldwin, I give so much respect to you, and I hope you're resting in power, my guy. I'm gonna read it and then we can all go about our day. Yeah. Background information on what I'm about to read. This is James Baldwin's first time meeting the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. If you don't know who Elijah Muhammad is, do a little research, girl. You know, a quick Google search. But this is his first time meeting him. Let's go. Before I read, I just want to say that I have James Baldwin's other book, Giovanni's Room, and it was actually on the ban list. That's the reason why I just got all his books. So please purchase this book, store this book in your library, read the whole thing 3 times if you can, because this book it's good, it's yummy, it's delicious. He put his heart into this book, and I'm so grateful, and I show so much gratitude to James Baldwin because he's an amazing man. Sorry for my little rant. You know we gotta respect the day around here. Let me get to the book. I began to see that Elijah's power came from his single-mindedness. There is nothing calculated about him. He means every word he says. The real reason, according to Elijah, that I failed to realize that the white man was that I had been too long exposed to white teaching and had never received true instruction. The so-called American Negro is the only reason Allah has permitted the United States to endure so long. The white man's time was up in 1913, but it is the will of Allah that this lost black nation, the black men of this country, be redeemed from their white masters and return to the true faith, which is Islam. Until this is done, and it will be accomplished very soon, the total destruction of the white man is being delayed. Elijah's mission is to return the so-called Negro to Islam to separate the chosen of Allah from this doomed nation. Furthermore, the white man knows his history, knows himself to be, and knows that his time is running out, and all his technology, psychology, science, and technology are being expanded in the effort to prevent black men from hearing the truth. The truth is that at the very beginning of time, there was not one white face to be found in all the universe. Black men ruled the earth, and black man was perfect. This is the truth concerning the era white men now refer to as prehistoric. They want black men to believe that they, like white men, once lived in caves and swung from trees and ate their meat raw and did not have the power of speech. But this is not true. Black men were never in such a condition. Allah allowed the devil through his scientists to carry on infernal experiments which resulted finally in the creation of the devil and later even more disastrously in the creation of, and it was decreed that these monstrous creatures should rule the earth for a certain number of years. I forgot how many thousands, but in this case their rule is now ending, and Allah, who had never approved of the creation in the first place, who knows himself in fact to be not a man at all but a devil, is anxious to restore the rule of peace that the rise of this totally destroyed. There is thus, by definition, no virtue, and since they are another creation entirely and can no more by breeding become black than a cat, by breeding can become a horse, there is no hope for them. I just want to say, he was going in though. I mean, he was being harsh. He was going in. I read that out loud because it connects. We have a generation that needs us. We're suffering from so much stuff. Mother Earth is going through hell because we are living in a patriarchal system. We're living in a patriarchal system. I wish we was on FaceTime so the hearts could show.